Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
All right, we're back again this week here on the Brown Sports Bag, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We will have Jay Turner joining us. He's got some awards this year, recognized for his dedication and commitment to high school athletics.
Well deserved.
Yep, well deserved. I mean, he's been doing it quite a while.
Yes.
So there's lots of Jay Turner calls out there that people have probably heard before that they recall. Not just from Barron County sports either. I mean, we're
started
talking
Metcalf.
Yep, started Metcalf. Talking about Campbellsville. I think women's basketball. Some WKU women's basketball.
Correct.
So he's done all kinds of stuff, calling the 15th district tournament, all the games, no matter who's playing. 4th region tournament, no matter who's playing in all those games.
WKU football, he's done a couple of those games.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, Jay Turner has done a lot through the years, so he'll be joining us. He said he had some yard work he had to clean up probably before it starts raining out here today. But anyway, he told us he'd try to be here as close to 4 o'clock as possible. I think he knows how to find the studio.
He's been here.
He has been here. But so in the meantime, we're going to talk a little bit about some high school baseball and softball, and let's start out with the baseball side of things. Okay. Because we have Barron County and Glasgow playing today. They will be playing at Glasgow at Richardson Field over there, Richardson Stadium, Sam Royce Field, over there in Gorham Park. And then they'll turn around and play again tomorrow. This is that back-to-back doubleheader 15th district thing that they do day-to-day, back-to-back days that they've been doing the last couple of years. And the way this kind of shapes up at the moment is if Barron wins one of these 2 games, they've locked up the 1 seed for the district tournament.
And more than likely play Allen. Not official, because Allen still has 2 games left.
Yeah, with Warren East today and tomorrow. But so far, Allen has looked like the 4th place team.
Could be. I mean, it's still possible, too, if Glasgow sweeps Barron and Warren East sweeps Allen, you could have a 3-way tie, 4-2.
Yeah, that's
from those
right.
3 schools. So, there's a Barron wins one, they're in first, for sure. But if Glasgow sweeps, you're looking at a possibility of a 3-way tie.
That's right. And, I'm not – 2 weeks ago, after Barron had swept Warren East and even though Glasgow swept Allen County, I would have said Barron is the favorite to figure out how to win this 1 seed because I thought pitching rotation-wise they had a good one down. Whether it's Tristan Meach or Joey Myers starting and then Skylar Potter or Gavin Coffey coming in more often than not to close the games, they look like a pretty good rotation that they had down, for back-to-back games. But I think Glasgow, I thought they played pretty well the last couple of weeks overall. Now, they lost a couple of games pretty handily to Greenwood, but, they had a big win against Franklin Simpson on Friday.
Lost 2 last week to Warren East.
That's right. They did lose the 2 last week to Warren East.
12-4 and 8-4.
Yeah. But I thought,
they finished the week well against the win against E-Town 6-5 and Franklin 8-4 with a walk-off grand slam by Davey Williams.
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting moment.
8th inning, that's correct.
Yeah,
not a lot of walk-off grand slams. You see, there's a lot of walk-off hits, occasionally walk-off homers, but walk-off grand slams.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen a lot.
No, that's a rare in the record books kind of thing. But yeah, I think the thing about those 2 games was in the Franklin Simpson game, Mason Lowry pitched pretty well.
He did. That was his best performance of the year.
Yes, it
went
was.
6 and
6 1/3, I think.
6 1/3, and kind of found that groove a little bit. He'd struggled this year for the most part, so it was a good performance by Mason.
Yeah. And then, so he walked a guy. They brought in Austin Parker, and then Franklin Simpson tied the game up. And then they brought in Peyton Limley to close the game. But I thought the most important thing was Franklin Simpson tied the game up 4-4 there, and then Glasgow was unable to get the run. So we went to the extra innings. The momentum was clearly in Franklin Simpson's favor at that point in time, if you believe in that kind of thing. And I thought the thing that was gritty on Glasgow's part was making the plays on defense to get out of the inning and then getting, the bases loaded and getting the grand slam. And then they kind of came back and did the same thing against Elizabethtown on Saturday. So I think the grittiness of how they won those 2 games was a part that impressed me. That's the thing I didn't – throughout the year, I'm not sure they've been playing with a whole lot of emotion a lot of times, and I thought they did in those 2 games.
Yeah, it's 2 good wins against 2 good programs. Franklin and E-Town are quality programs that, will definitely, you would think, course, in baseball, momentum. Sometimes it's the momentum is who's your next starting pitcher.
Right.
So we'll see about that. Barron's hot too. Barron had won 6 straight before they lost on Saturday to Owensboro. Another very talented team and so forth. So yeah, it should be a good ball game today and tomorrow.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, let's hear what Jay Turner has to say about this.
And Jay will be calling.
No, I was going to stand there, John. You can
that one.
Okay.
I tell you what, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll get all set up here so that we can hear what Jay has to say about these here baseball and softball games he's been calling this season. This is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're back here on the Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. Before we even get started, I got to tell on Jay a little bit because I think I've been trying to talk him into coming on this show for like 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least.
And he's like, oh yeah, and I'll join you sometime. So even when I texted him last week, knowing that he had won this award from the Kentucky High School Athletics Association. Well, directors, I guess is what it is.
It used to be the directors. Now they've changed it to administrators.
Administrators, okay. Yeah. So even when I texted him last week to say, hey, you want to come on and talk about this award? He goes, I don't know. I got some yard work to do.
Well, I did. It's done. I got dust and dirt in my throat, but I'm okay.
Okay, good. So, yeah, congratulations on the award. How was that? I mean, because there were several people who received different honors for different things, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Dr. Rudy J. Ellis Award, and John probably remembers the
went to Dr. Ellis.
Yes, he was the team doctor for U of L.
Yes,
okay.
I've been to him, yep.
And he, of course, sports medicine. And he was the first doctor, I don't know if he was in Louisville or in Kentucky, that offered free physicals to athletes.
Okay.
John may remember that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I remember Dr. Ellis, and I went to his son. His son also took over as well. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
So they were, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 that received that in certain categories. Mm-hmm. Newspaper writing, being a bookkeeper at a ball game for so many years. So they recognized several people.
Next year, Keith Weaver's going to get this award.
Well, somebody needs to nominate him. I mean, send it into. I was trying to think. Brandon Combs is on the committee.
Yeah.
And he was actually the one that nominated me.
Okay, well, that was nice.
And he said, I want to nominate you for this award because I think you deserve it. I just need some, information, background, so forth. So I sent all that to him. And then I got the letter. About 3 weeks ago, a month ago, something like that, saying you have been selected to receive this award. And I told Brandon, he said, well, I wasn't supposed to tell you. And I got it from the committee chairman up there at the KH. What is it? KAAA. The KAAA. Okay. Yeah. But he said it used to be the athletic directors, and now they wanted to change it, make it a little more professional, make it administrators.
They don't direct, they administrate now, huh?
They administrate now. Okay. And, of course, Mr. Howard, Greg Howard, is the Warren County athletic administrator, I guess you could call him, because he's over all the schools in Warren County.
Yeah, it used to be at Logan County.
So he was there Thursday night. There are other awards they give out, too, for Tom Leach was the Master of Ceremonies, the University of Kentucky Wildcat boys. Mm-hmm. And he has the All Resilient Team that he gives to different players that have suffered injuries or had tragedy in their life or something like that. And so, and then there were a few coaches that were honored across the state. So it was a big night. It was a very interesting night of knowing who some of these people are that are getting these awards, and very honored and privileged to get that.
Yeah. Well, and then I think on Sunday we had the induction into the KHSAA Hall of Fame, and that, of course, Brandon Stockman was in that, and I think John's high school baseball coach was inducted. Was that on Sunday as well?
I don't know.
Larry Gunn?
Larry Gunn was?
Yes, yes, he was.
Coach Gunn died a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's some others from around this area, not necessarily from, Barron County or Greene County, that kind of stuff.
But some around the state. I mean, that's something they do.
Jay, do you remember
each
your
year.
first game that you called? Do you remember what year or?
Very first game?
Yep.
1985.
Basketball? Or?
Yeah, I'll tell you how it all started. I'll give you a little background information.
This is what we invited you to do. I mean,
you want to know the whole story.
You talk, we listen.
Anyway, I was on the air on WOVO one afternoon back in 1985. That's when the studios were out on 31E across from where, what's the name of the restaurant out there now?
It used to be Bolton's Landing out there.
Yeah, it was Copper Frog before it became Bolton's Landing.
Yeah.
So that's where the studios were for many years until I think they moved down here. So I was on the air one afternoon, and a man by the name of Stan McKinney. Stan McKinney was doing basketball for Barron at the time. Paul Kingery was doing football.
Yeah.
So Stan one afternoon walks in the studio. He said, "Jay, would you like to go with me to Edmondson County to the district tournament?" I'm thinking, okay, have I got anything going on? No, I'll go with you.
You didn't tell him you needed to do your yard, huh?
No, I didn't. I mean, as soon as I got off the air at 6 o'clock, and because it was the second game that night, I think, so we had time to get over there. So here I am sitting with Stan while he's doing play-by-play, and he didn't have any color person, you know. And so the third quarter came up, and he asked me, "You want to do the third quarter, Jay?" And here I am. I was like, "What?
No preparation.
No preparation." Of course, I knew some of the players anyway.
Right.
But sure. So that summer he left. He left to take another job somewhere else. So I was asked to be the voice of the Trojans in 1986, 85-86 season.
Yeah.
So I was doing games until 1988 at WOVO. And in 1988 is when Mr. Steve Newberry brought Commonwealth Broadcasting into existence. And we had a station called Hot as Hits at the time, Hot as Hits 106.7. And then we had another station that he put on in Edmonton called Kickin' Country. It was WKNK. So he had asked me if and at the time when all the changes were taking place with WOVO and a different owner, they were having some, financial issues and such. But so he wanted me to do Metcalfe County sports on WKNK. And this was in 1989. No, I'll take that back. I did Caverna one year on WSMJ in Cave City. I forget sometimes where I've been over the years.
I guess that was Steve's first station.
That was his first station. Yeah, WSMJ. It was an AM station. And so Forrest Wise and Randall Curry helped me do color commentary.
Two good ones right there.
Caverna one year. And then the next year is when he put on WKNK at Edmonton, and so I switched over and started doing Metcalfe for 6 years, 1995, 96.
That must have been a lot of fun being with Forrest Wise and Randall Curry
it was.
at the sporting events because they were way into Randall. I guess kind of still is, of course. But, I mean, they were way into the Caverna sports. Even when I first got here, they still were.
Yeah. And so I did Metcalfe County until 1995, 96. Tim McMurtry, who he did football with me those years. And I had some different Harold Chambers, Don Allen Reese, Doug Clemens did color with me those years. We went to the All-A State tournament just about every year, either the girls, the guys, or both.
Yeah.
Up in Richmond. And so that was a pretty fun trip to go up there every year. So in 96, 95, 96, Steve had bought WOVO at the courthouse door because they were having financial issues. So Steve called me that afternoon. He said, "Jay, I'd like you to do Barron County sports." So that's
been there ever since, huh?
Where I've been since 95, 96 season.
Do you think of do you ever think to yourself, man, I cannot believe this is what I ended up getting into? I mean, because what were your plans before
well, of course, I was a disc jockey for 30 years, and I never thought I would get into sports broadcasting. But Stan McKinney got me started with that, and that's how it went from there.
Once you started doing that, did you find your passion for it? Is that why
I did.
your thing? Yeah,
and then eventually, I know it was in 2004 that Darren Steenbergen was the general manager here. And he brought me in the office one afternoon. He said, Jay, Barry Williams has got to have open heart surgery. And he said, I'd like for you to fill in for
Western.
Doing the Lady Toppers. So I did 14, 15 games that year, 2004, 2005. And then it was 2000, and then Darren filled in for me doing some Barron County games when Western had games. Of course, he brought me in. He said, the only thing about doing the Lady Toppers is you've got to go to Cancun, Mexico for a week. And I said,
Shucks.
Oh, really? So anyway, Hal Smith did color with me those several games I did back in 2004 and 2005. And then in 2009, I was talking with Greg Bowen, who was here at that time, about I don't know. I just asked him. I don't know why I even thought about it. I said, "Who does Campbellsville College games on the radio?" And he said, "Well, nobody right now because Brian Blair has left to go to Louisville to take a job at the State Fair fairgrounds." And he said, "Would you want to fill in and do some games?" Well, I don't know if it works out with the Barron County schedule. So he sent or called. Well, I guess it was a guy. It was the AD up there at the time. Well, I've lost thought of his name now. Rusty Hollinsworth. Was the athletic director. So he called and asked me how many games can you do? I said, well, it depends on what how many high school games. And so I filled in, did 20, 25 games, women's and men's. And then at the end of the year, he said, would you come back the next year? Yeah, if it works out, if it works out with the rest of the schedule.
Yeah.
So I know Robert Bauer did a game with me. We went to Rupp Arena in Lexington and did the Campbellsville UK exhibition game. That was the first year that Calipari was there. You had John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and all those guys. So that was a big deal, being able to sit there on press row with Kyle Macy and Rob Bromley and Tom Leach and all those guys. So, but I did Campbellsville until 2017. My dad had passed away, and I was having to take care of my mother more. And it was just too much. I was doing 125 basketball games a year.
Yeah,
and I was traveling everywhere.
I don't know how you do that. I mean, I don't know that I cover 125 basketball games a year. I might get close, but I just don't know how you radio guys like.
Well, it's the play-by-play. I help him, in football and do some basketball with Jay, and it's the color part is really easy. You're just jumping in when you see a play.
You say so. I couldn't do it.
But
I really couldn't do it either.
But the play-by-play,
when you're so used to doing play-by-play,
the play-by-play is, I think, the difficult part. It's because you have to remember. I can look down and find 12. That person's name is Joe Smith. He's got it. He knows he's got it memorized and so forth. And of course, today all the spots and you got to read all the commercials. I mean, you can't just walk in and do it. You have to prepare and so forth. But the memory is what really, really impresses me. I mean, because Jake and when we do the regional tournament together, I mean, there's game after game after game, and he can. It's almost like doing we got the Kentucky Derby coming up this week, but a horse racing announcer has all the races. Yeah. He had 10 races a day, and he has probably 140 horses that you have to remember names and so forth. It's amazing how Jay and these people do it. When I say Jay, I'm talking about people who do it right and do it really good. Yeah.
Of course, John and I did some Western games, year before last? We did some Lady Topper games. We went to Freedom Hall, did a game with Bellarmine, and did some home games together, and on a fill-in basis with the guys down there. But, no, I really enjoy it. It's a passion to me to be able to do play-by-play. Hopefully I can do it a few more years. Hopefully my mind will, like John said, try to remember all those names and numbers and get everybody, where you know who's who out there instead of number 12, number 14, and so forth. But, I haven't done that many baseball and softball games over the years, so I really haven't got into a system or a kind of a a way to make it better. I mean, it's
Baseball storytelling, because
It really is.
Dead. There's a lot of dead airtime, you know.
Yeah.
and I mean, I do a lot of research. I do a lot of prep that I can with stats. But like I said, I haven't done that many baseball and softball games because all we really did was postseason there for several years, and you might do one game and that's it. You know, if they lose in the district, or you might do 5 or 6 altogether with regional tournament games.
Mm-hmm.
But the last couple of years, we've been doing a few regular season games, as you know, and you just have to get some kind of a pattern and a system down to make it where you can have something to talk about.
You can have in baseball. You can have conversations.
Yeah.
In basketball, there's no time for that.
No. There's no. Basketball is so fast paced that you have no time for anything else.
Well, that's what Jay finally I finally said yes to doing the color at the basketball game, and about midway through the first quarter, I realized, man, this is a lot harder than. Look, I'm a person who would take photos and shoot notes and tweet simultaneously, and I could not do that, because I kept having to look down and then try to figure out who was what and what I needed to mark there, and then as he's talking through all this, and I'm marking this down, and then I realize I'm like, he's not stopped yet. He's not stopped, and here I am trying to find the guy on this sheet here, and I'm like, how does he do this?
Yeah, he's. I don't. All you got to do, and it's not a knock on other people, but just listen to others around and things like that, and it's Jay's. We're fortunate to have him, and he could, step right in and do college or whatever. He's as good as the college guys. I can tell you that because I've worked with a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've had a lot of people ask me, what's your favorite sport? Well, what would you think my favorite sport is?
It's basketball.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I played basketball in high school, had a chance to play college basketball. I've refereed high school basketball for when I was, 20, 21 years old.
Right.
I wouldn't do it now, for sure, even if I was in better shape. And I coached Little League basketball. So, yeah. When I say basketball is way up here, football's here, and so forth.
It's kind of funny. Like for me, I've covered all kinds of sports through the years, and my favorite sport was basketball. And whenever I first started covering sports, it was my favorite one to cover. But it's not my favorite one to cover anymore. And I think it's just the season itself is kind of a grind, to be honest with you. I kind of enjoy when the spring sports come around because, at least from what I do, you have a lot more kind of time to kind of figure out what you want to do and angles and all that kind of jazz. But I would guess for you, though, those spring sports are just slower, and so it's.
I guess I'm so used to fast pace.
Yeah.
Football is kind of in between.
Football's once a week.
Yeah, it's once a week.
It's one day a week. So the preparation is you got the whole week and things like that.
And baseball and softball is every day. Of course, we're not doing them every day.
But basketball's gotten that way.
And it has. It's 3 and 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
I used to joke when I moved to Kentucky that there are 2 days set aside.
Tuesday,
that are
Friday.
No, Wednesday and Sunday.
Yeah, Tuesday,
days.
Friday that you played.
Yeah, but every other day belongs to basketball in Kentucky.
And that's how it used to be: Tuesday, Friday, and then when they started adding more games for you to have at the for the season, go from 24 to 30.
Yeah,
that's another 12 games.
Right.
That you've got to prep for.
Well. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to have you guys tell me some stories about some of your trips that you've had during football season, because I know you've had some good ones. All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're going to do a little bit of story time here. We'll also talk about some baseball and softball as we get to the end of this particular segment. But we'll probably be, stick around for 20 or so minutes. We got some stories, I'm sure.
It's just an hour-long show, right?
Yeah. I know we could actually stay here for 3 hours.
Yeah, right. I was getting ready to say.
But unfortunately, we can't stay here for 3 hours. We have a Reds game coming up at some point in time later. Now, look, you guys have had some road trips together and through the years. Because I think, John, have you pretty much done the football with Jay the whole time he's been doing as the voice of the Trojans?
Started off with me and Jay and Jackie Browning.
Okay. And then, so you guys have been together on some road trips over the last 27 years.
There's been some long ones.
Really?
Well, I mean, I just think about going to Ballard Memorial just to call that game whenever Barron was playing the non-district schedule.
Yes,
I mean,
that
they
was
just
on
picked up.
I think that was a Saturday, right?
It was a Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, that.
Several trips to Paducah,
Yeah.
Marshall County,
Oh, yeah, because Marshall was in the district for about 4 years.
Into Graves County.
Graves
Oh, yeah.
County.
They were also in the district there, early 2000s, mid 2000s area. So which trip was the one that, like, is there one that sticks out to you guys, either because of distance or calamity?
Of course, the Ballard Memorial trip, we went in a monsoon and came back home in a monsoon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that place was a swamp when you got over there,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's over there by the Mississippi River anyway.
It's
Yeah.
the farthest county over, right?
yeah, I
There's
think-
one more
yeah.
at Fulton is the
Yeah.
next one. Ballard and Fulton, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these places, I don't recollect. I couldn't tell you about scores or games, but the trips have been, it's where you eat. Is the,
Right.
Jackie was always the one that would tell us.
He'd do the
Knew
research.
he knew the places to go, the hole in the wall,
Right.
and we've been to a few hole in the wall.
right. So it's and now Jay knows a lot of them. Of course, if you go to the western part of the state, it's Patty's, right?
Patties, yeah.
Been there, and that's a good one, to say the least. And
We're going to hit all these people up for sponsorships.
Yeah,
Yeah, here we
So-
go. A Creekside up at Campbellsville. That's always a good spot to go to.
so to Casey County that way, it's the
Yeah, the bread of life.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Moonlight Barbecue in Owensboro. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just those are the fun ones. And of course, you get there. I'm very impatient. I just do not like to wait. I don't like to wait in lines or wait for food. And the good news when we go
Yeah.
is that we have to get there early enough.
Yeah, you're in the gap between lunch and dinner. Huh?
That's the key. Now, when we were both teaching and at school, though, sometimes it was a rush. But now we can kind of leave whenever we want to for these games. So you generally can just show up and get a spot or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's man, that's the fun part.
Now, have you guys picked out a place where you thought, oh, no, this is going to be the place to eat, and then you got there and you're like, we goofed this one up?
Oh yeah, that's happening.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
You don't have to name names, but you
the
can name a location.
where the smoking section was next to the salad bar.
Yes, that was.
That must have been a really good salad.
Yeah. We've run
Extra
into
flavor.
we've run into situations, and Robert and Jay's appetite is a little bit different from mine.
Oh, yeah?
And they can handle some things differently, but cleanliness and like an inspection within the last 5 years is high on my list.
That reminds me of one spot. I'm gonna mention that. I'm not gonna say
Don't say
the
that.
place.
Yeah.
But we were going to do a football game one night out of town,
Now, was this east or west of here?
southeast,
Okay, southeast of here. All right, go ahead.
about 35 miles. So we pull up to this restaurant.
Wait, did you take $12.97 on your
No,
the trip?
no,
Oh,
no.
okay, never mind then. Go
Take
ahead.
the roller coaster or the 90 or whatever, crossroads. But we pulled up, and I don't know exact words that John said. We're eating here. And so we, I think Robert, did you go in with us? Or you went in with us, watched us eat.
I got a Diet Coke.
Yeah. you remember the place I'm talking about. Yeah. So I said, John,
Would
you're
you
not going
like
to
a
eat? He
Diet
says,
Coke?
no. So we end up going through a drive-through
Yeah.
before we went over to the game. So.
Hit a McDonald's.
I
Huh?
was a good
Well,
sport.
it was close.
I was a good sport about it. Yeah.
But, we haven't been there since.
I mean, that happens sometimes.
But they do have good food.
Yeah, well, John doesn't know. What'd you think of the food, John? I wouldn't know. The Diet Coke was fine, though.
Now, on another note, I remember we ate at Creekside in Campbellsville before we went over to Taylor County, and my stomach was killing me that day. I mean, I thought I had a kidney infection or something, and I was bending over trying to broadcast the game. I was in pain.
You went to the hospital the next day.
I
right?
did. I went to the hospital the next day, and they did some X-rays, and they said, "Mr. Turner, you don't have cancer. Good news is you don't have cancer."
Uh-huh.
I said, "Well, that's good to know." but you've got pancreatitis, and you need to go to the hospital. And
Yeah.
I said, well, I was getting ready to go to the Smoky Mountains because it was fall break. I said, can I wait till I get back from the smoke? No, you've got to go now and get that infection out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I thought I just had a kidney infection.
That's kind of thing.
That was rough.
Yeah, that'll. But hey, it must have been one of the best games you've ever called, though, because you probably were in so
I
much
don't
pain.
remember
You
that.
actually weren't really conscious of what you were saying.
I mean, and I've done games where I've had a headache or I've actually thrown up before a game because it was hurting so bad. But after that, I was okay. But yeah, there's times I've had upper respiratory infections, but you battle through it because I don't know, you just do.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the baseball and softball since we were here. Now you've called how many? Several of our games have gotten rained out or moved around so far this year.
Yeah, there was one game that I was supposed to have done with Monroe County baseball, and they moved it to Tompkinsville that day.
Yeah.
Coach Alfonso sent me a text and said, we're moving the game to Tompkinsville. I said, well, okay, I've done all this prep, and now, they're going to go to Tompkinsville. But I knew the softball team had a game at home.
Yeah.
So I just switched over and did, I think it was Cumberland County.
Yeah.
And but I've done 4 softball and 4 baseball this year so far.
What stood out to you so far this season about either one of the Barron County softball or baseball teams?
Well, the softball team can hit the ball.
Yeah.
We got a different pitcher with Shea Bogue, who's doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Just a freshman. But Katie.
Won 12 straight.
Yeah,
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 right.
yeah.
Lost since they came
That's
back
right.
from Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, 19-6. Still undefeated in the district. They've got Warren East tomorrow, I think,
Yeah.
at Warren East.
Yeah.
And they still have the Allen game they've got to get in.
Yeah, won 2 district games last week.
Yeah.
Good win against Allen.
Yeah.
14-5. And
Yeah.
then 3 innings against Glasgow. I thought the game would be more competitive. It's
I
15-0.
thought-
That game was.
There was a couple of things that were a little bit surprising about that game. One is Kerrigan Hagan had pitched the last 2 games for Glasgow. She played second base. She pitched well in their 2 wins against Adair County and Green County.
Green. That's a good win. That's
Yeah, it
Glasgow's
was.
best win of the year.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And then Kylie Green wasn't there. I guess she was out sick, so she usually plays shortstop. So they had moved some people around, but Hagan did not pitch. Memphis Prophet did, and Barron just got on her early because they'd already seen her once this year. They got on her early, and they've been hitting the ball well. And I think that was probably the best game Bogue's pitched in terms of hitting her spots.
Yeah, she had 2 shutouts last week.
Yeah.
But Jay's right. Barron can hit. That's the one thing. Against Allen, they had 4 kids at Homer.
Yeah.
And that's at Allen, a pretty
Right.
good-sized park. I think is Briley Adala, Lizzie Smith, Katie Elmore, and Monty Foster. They all homered in. I was just looking at the stats today. Katie Murphy's hitting .620.
Yeah.
And that's 8th in the state. She's 3rd in the state in RBI. She has 445, 3rd in the state in doubles.
Yeah.
Katie Elmore leads the state in doubles. She's hitting 466, Riley Reed 475. I mean, those are gaudy numbers, and, we're nearing the end of the year, so it's not like you just played 1 week of the season. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're hitting, and I just named, just those 3, but they can.
And 1 through 9 can hit the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You got to score to beat, Barron right now, and they're playing well.
Well, and that game at East tomorrow, I think will be interesting because they beat East 14-5. I think the first time they beat Allen 14-4 last week. They ended
yeah,
up
5. Was it 5 innings?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and so they beat East, and that game was, I think, got off to a little bit of a shaky start, and then Barron kind of exploded in it. But I think East is playing pretty well. They ended up beating Allen last week. I think it was like 16-4.
19-4.
19-4. Yeah.
19-4. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be an interesting game over there. And one thing for Allen, of course, their starting pitcher Oliver was out whenever Barron played him last week. I think they ended up using 3 pitchers in that game before it was all said and done, and they tattooed every one of them.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see that game with East tomorrow.
Well, going back to the Glasgow game, they didn't get to the field until 25 after 4.
Really?
And the game was at 5,
Yeah.
And I called Daryl Murphy. I said, Coach, is it 5 or 5:30? He said, 5 o'clock. I said, I wonder why the team's not here yet, Glasgow. And finally they showed up, and they just kind of nonchalant went out there to warm up. And we didn't get the lineup till like 3 minutes before the game started. And then we heard some things afterwards that one of the players had quit after she got to the game.
Really? Okay, I don't know about that part.
Because they had played. Glasgow had come off the win against Adair the week before and beat Green. And now, listen, Green is not as strong as it's been. That's a good win against
That's what I
Green.
thought.
And,
Yeah.
that's when I think Hagan only allowed one run against Green. And Shikali Green, I think, went 4 for 4. And Riley Strode homered in that game.
Yeah.
She went 4 for 4, Shikali Green. And Ellery Haynes went 3 for 5. So
Well, I do know Riley Strode had been injured, so I don't know if she was injured or not injured.
Yeah.
She's kind of been in and out of the lineup because of injuries. But
Right.
Yeah.
so yeah, it was a completely different game than what I expected because they had been real competitive.
chance they could play. Obviously, there's a good chance they could play in the district. Both teams still has. Barron's got 2 more district games
Yeah,
left. I think Glasgow may have 2. Is that right?
I think they have one.
Well, let's see.
They may have one left against East or
Okay.
Allen. I don't remember which one.
Right. It's not as easy to keep up with in softball as baseball.
Right. Right.
The district teams, they play on Monday, Tuesday, and
Yeah.
it's back to back. I kind of like how they do that. You don't have to do that in softball because you're not relying generally on a pitching staff like
Right.
it in baseball. Baseball does it. I'm very impressed with switching that. It's smart to do it that way.
Do you like that better?
Yeah, because you can't. If you space them 2 or 3 weeks apart, you just know you can throw your number one every time. And this way, you're forced to use your staff. A little bit more strategy, I think. So I do like it better, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it also kind of helps the coaches because on the flip side of pitching that number one pitcher throughout the district, then everybody's seen that pitcher, and you get in the district tournament, and they've seen them now.
Right.
So if you're having to mix up your staff, then you're actually having to make the other team think about who you might
Or
put
you
on
can
the
throw
mound.
your 2 and 3 and never throw your 1.
There's that too. Yeah,
You can, but-
you can try like Warren East did last year when it backfired on
But
them.
it should be in baseball. Switching back to baseball, Barron and Glasgow the next 2 days should be 2 good ball games because I think both teams are playing really, really well.
Yeah.
Barron has a kind of an established rotation with Myers and Meach, but and Glasgow has I don't know if it's as established as Barron, but how Glasgow finished off last week, beating Franklin, the walk off, and E-Town. You would think some of that momentum would carry over. Should be a good game today and tomorrow.
I think so.
And we were talking about Hagan for Glasgow and softball. When we got the lineup, John, Myatt, and I, so why isn't Hagan starting today?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like
too.
she's won the last 2 ball games for them, and
Could be saving her for the district.
could be saving her for district.
that's-
Yeah,
I mean, there
she
could
did
be-
play second base
there
that
could be
day.
some
I
strategy
suspect-
there too.
Yeah, I suspect what the deal was is they ended up having Emery Gardner play shortstop, who usually plays third. With Yakali Green out, then they may have
Shuffled people around.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
what. So
and
they
they
may
end
not
up-
really had another second baseman.
Let's
Really,
see, who was it that was playing shortstop?
it was Emery Gardner playing shortstop, and then was it?
No,
Em-
it
Emery
was-
was playing third. Oh, they had Natalia Lightfoot.
Lightfoot was
shortstop,
playing shortstop. Yeah,
which she's been playing a little bit in those last few games. So I don't know. The lineup was different than what I expected in the field, and
I was at the I watched the Barron Clinton County softball early in the week. Clinton impressed me.
They are good.
I mean, Barron had
Clinton's
to
not
come
bad.
back and win in extra innings, but Clinton's for real.
yeah.
I mean, they got some kids that, speaking, can hit. Mm-hmm. They got some hitters in that
you
lineup.
got Todd Messer, who was the boys basketball coach for several years.
daughters
His
are-
2 daughters are they're pretty good.
Probably the best team they've ever had.
And then
Yeah,
they
I'd say
beat
so.
beat Cumberland the other night.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Cumberland's not bad either. I mean, Barron had a hard time beating them. It was what 13-12.
Yeah, and then you look around the region a little bit. Of course, you got South Warren. They're one. Logan County's pretty
South
impressive.
Warren got
They've
their
had some good wins.
second loss of the year this past week. They lost to Lexington Catholic 1-0, but they're 26-2.
Yeah, I think Logan is 21-4.
Good team.
Yeah, they're a good team.
Yeah, that's a
Greenwood.
team.
Greenwood's good.
Greenwood.
Greenwood's got
yeah,
good pitching.
Greenwood
And-
was
yeah.
ranked pretty high too. I think 7 or 8 in the state overall, and of course South Warren's number 1. Barron was 15, I think, in the poll I saw this afternoon.
yeah.
But
we
Logan
probably said one
County,
earlier.
Logan County is the team that Barron will play next week,
I believe it's May 3rd.
and it's
I
at
think.
Logan.
Yeah. So is that this Friday, May 3rd?
Yeah, I mean,
That's right. And
Yeah, so they play
can't
at
believe
Logan
it's
this Friday.
May's here.
yeah,
right.
yeah. I think Logan was 19th.
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some solid teams in the 4th region this year, especially out of places we don't usually see them, like the 16th district with
Right.
Clinton and
But
Cumberland.
they're still the traditional 4th region softball team.
Yeah.
South Warren. When I say tradition, the 4th, it always has a state power.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's been Warren East here lately, but obviously Allen and Greenwood have all won state championships. And South Warren looks like, to me, one of the big dogs.
South Warren also got Allen County Scottsville's Hadley Borders.
Yeah. Yeah, she transferred over there. Well, I guess her mom took a job. She's an assistant coach there, I think is what it is. So, yeah. And then, and back to Allen real quick. Injuries, I think, have been their problem because Rice hasn't played in, I don't know, maybe since she may not have played a game this season. And then, of course, Oliver was out with a broken finger or something of that nature. And I think they've had 2 or 3. When I looked over in their dugout, they had 2 or 3 other kids over there in street clothes.
They're struggling right now.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're kind of on the backside of how things we expected them to go, but injuries might be a big part of that. And then Barron's had some injuries as well, but they seem to have gotten through those and playing pretty well. And going back to the Katie Murphy thing, when I watched her play last week, that's the first time I felt like I've seen her play since her knee injury last summer, that she played without even thinking about it. Like, she played with quickness. She played with, she was running the base pass really well, making quick moves at shortstop. Mentally, it seems like she's kind of gotten over that part too. So, I mean, she was playing at the caliber we've seen her play, I think, at shortstop, through the years.
Yeah, she's having a great year. Her and but several in that lineup. Katie Elmore's having a great year.
Yes,
Riley Reed, they got
the
third baseman
Nora Shirley.
Nora
Yeah.
Shirley. I mean, they got Forster's been a great addition to the team. They've got a good lineup right now.
All right. Well, we're going to take another quick break here. This is the Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, and we'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're back here on the Brown Sports Bag, joined by Jay Turner. Almost all show today. He missed a couple of minutes at the beginning, but that's because he had some yard work to do before the rain comes. We're going to talk a little bit about a piece of news that's out there now, and whenever I get done with this show, I'll have my story published on this, my actual interview published on this. Brandon Stockton's the new boys basketball coach at Glasgow. They had the official announcement at 4:30. I talked to him this morning because I'm here at 4:30. It's hard to be at the official announcement. So, he's been an assistant for William Buford the last couple of years, but he's been an assistant going back. I think he started out as an assistant with Jeff Hall whenever he took the job. And I reminded Brandon that we used to have this photo, and I think I still do somewhere, of him grabbing hold of Jeff Hall's jacket so he doesn't get a technical foul, because he liked to, Jeff Hall would get on to people during the game and occasionally get a technical. So there's a picture of Brandon grabbing his jacket as he's yelling at the officials. But, good for Brandon. I mean, he's, Mr. Basketball in 2003, I think it was, and, 5-year starter at Glasgow. I think he started when he was in the 8th grade, put up a truckload of points, had a great career, went on and played at the University of Kentucky for Tubby Smith, and has all the basketball knowledge you could want, I do believe, to be a head basketball coach. And he's probably still close enough in age to these guys in high school that he relates to them probably, better than I would, certainly. But he's serious about basketball. I mean, he's passionate about the game. And Jay and John, you guys got to see him play and, see his high school career and that kind of thing. I mean, what do you think about this?
Why, it's a fit for sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's a great fit for Glasgow. I mean, I'm a former point guard too. Didn't hurt,
right?
Because to be honest with you, point guards obviously there's a lot of responsibilities in doing that. And of course, he's the point guard at the highest level. Mr. Basketball played at UK, and I do know that Brandon loves Glasgow High School, and he's put a lot of time into it and so forth. And I wish him the best of luck because Brandon's a good fella. He's a good guy, and like any coach, he'll need players. And that's the one thing. But they do have some good returners coming back. I mean, they lose the guard who was really.
J.C. Walbert.
I thought he was a really good player. But they got some other pieces and so forth, and I'm obviously we do a lot of the Barron County games, but I have a ton of respect for Brandon. And I think it's a good choice for them, and we'll just see, how things can go. But he does have some players coming back, and we'll see how Brandon can mesh with them and so forth.
Well, and of course they won the district and went in district.
They got hot at the end of the year.
Yeah, they did, and most of the players outside of Walbert who hit the shot against Warren East, I think they ended up the season with 3 seniors. The other 2 didn't play a whole bunch, so they will miss Walbert. But yeah, I mean you got Jarek Martin and you got Bradley coming back, and you've got so many of these other guys who really played well. JoJo Driver, who really played well in the postseason, I thought. What do you think, Jay? I mean, what do you think
I'm glad to see Brandon get the job. I think he'll do well.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He's still young. He's 41 years old.
Probably there, yeah.
And so he can relate to those guys a lot better than somebody like us, But I wish him well.
Yeah.
And when you take over too, you want to take over. Kind of ideally, when you take over, you don't want to take over a state championship team because where do you go from there?
Yeah.
You want to take over a team that hopefully has some experience coming back, which they do.
Mm-hmm.
A team with talent, which they do, and a team that, even though they won the district and got to the semifinals of the region, they had a losing record.
Yeah.
So there's progress to be made and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a good situation to take over.
Yeah. Well, and then one of John's favorite events is going to come up here this weekend, the Kentucky Derby. It is your favorite, isn't it?
It's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're into the money side of things.
I like the Derby. I like it.
Yeah. Are you a fan of the Derby?
I watch the Derby every year if I have a chance. Now I'm not. I've been to the Derby just once, but I didn't see anything when I was there.
Were you behind a hat or 6?
Well, it's been so long ago I can't remember. But no, I always want to know who the best horses are going to be that's going to run, and just enjoy it.
It's 150th.
150th.
So
Yes,
it's
that's
a big
right.
deal for them this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and they've added like $200 million worth of improvements to the paddock area, just with where the saddle the horses. I mean, it's an amazing transformation. I saw it on TV Saturday night. They opened Saturday, and I could see all the transformation. They put a lot into it.
Who's the favorites? Who's the favorite? I mean,
I think the favorite is a horse. I think it's called Fierceness. It's a horse by Todd Pletcher. I think he's got the 17th post. He'll probably be 5-2, 2-1. He'll be the favorite. There's another horse called Sierra Leone, I think. He's from the 2 spot. He'll probably be 3-1, 4-1, something like that. But, when you put 20 in a field, anything can, as you can see, you can tell, anything can happen.
Yeah. Those turns get pretty crowded and everything, and then you never know who's going to have to try to make up that distance.
A lot of it's not the best horse; it's the best trip that you get.
Yeah, right. Well, and I guess that is that the longest race that they run?
No. Of the Triple Crown, it's the second longest. This is a 1.25 miles. The Preakness is a little shorter. I think 1 mile and 3/16. But the Belmont, which is the third leg, that's 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so and then we had the draft last week, last Thursday through Saturday,
Right.
and in the first pick of the third round, WKU's Malachi Corley got picked. One of the faster receivers in the draft, as I recall.
Went to the Jets.
In
fact, they traded up to get him.
Yes, that's right. And from Campbellsville originally. I mean, so he's putting Campbellsville on the map for something other than women's basketball, I suppose. But I mean, what do you guys kind of think about the draft? I mean, what stood out to you?
I like the draft. The first night.
Yeah.
I pay attention to the first night in particular. I just kind of like all that stuff. That's one of the weird things I do like. I mean, the first 4 picks were quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the first time I think in draft history, where you went quarterback.
Yeah.
6 quarterbacks taken in the first round, and probably the odds are 2 of them will make it.
Yeah.
A lot of it is fit. You can where you go to matters. How you're coached and so forth. I like the one that went to New England, the kid out of North.
May.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's a good spot.
Right. Yeah, we don't know anything about New England.
I don't know
right
anything
now.
about New England's. Their new staff and so that may be a terrible spot. I don't know. And of course,
Yeah.
the reach was Atlanta when they drafted the kid out of Washington.
Yeah, Michael Penix Jr. there.
Which may be a good player, but they just signed Kirk Cousins $100 million guarantee.
Yeah.
And then you use your first pick 5 weeks later to draft a quarterback who's not going to play for a couple of years seems not to be the greatest use of resources.
Well, he's a 24-year-old
24
quarterback
years
that's
old,
not
too.
going to play for a couple of years.
That's correct. It's
So
just,
that's a little bit.
and everybody's kind of twisting the last couple of days on Sports Talk. Everybody's being put in this pretzel to come up with these reasons why it's a great pick. And it doesn't. If you liked him that much, you probably shouldn't have spent $100 million guaranteed on Kirk Cousins 5 weeks ago.
I love the people who said, well, they believed he was the best quarterback in the draft, and they were surprised he got to him. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, that may be true, but we're talking about Atlanta. Do we trust their judgment?
Right. They felt that he was that much of a lock. They probably shouldn't have signed Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to use Cousins as trade bait or something in order to move around on the board. I suppose.
I don't think that
know.
was the plan.
No. The plan was they saw, oh look, let's draft him.
Yeah.
They had cards in their hand and they pulled up the one and it said Michael Penix Jr. and that's the one they selected.
So it's a crapshoot with the most important player of all sports is a quarterback, and so everybody's trying to find that quarterback. The reality of it is that some of them make it and some of them don't, and sometimes it's hard. They're hard to predict. To be honest with you, like I said, everybody thinks the world of San Francisco, and the head coach there is a great coach, Kyle Shanahan. But they also traded 17,000 picks to get Trey Lance, and they traded him a year out later, and stuck with the guy, the last pick of the draft.
Yeah.
So, these guys, it's you just do the best you can, and then you see what happens.
I love my favorite thing about all professional sports, and really probably all sports above the high school level, is everybody's a genius when everything's working out, and everybody who it doesn't work out for is an idiot. Mm-hmm. But, there's a fine line when you're at that level, at these levels, as to whether you're an idiot or a genius. Because we've seen, Bill Belichick wasn't a genius at Cleveland. He was an idiot. So he gets to New England, winds up with Tom Brady coming in the 6th round, and things just pan out for him. Now he's the greatest football coach in history, I suppose.
Well, until the last couple of years, and then
he was an idiot again.
And then he,
Mac Jones.
That's correct. Yeah, coaching is for the most part player driven, right?
Yeah.
It's just that's the way it is. The better the players, oftentimes you are perceived as a better coach. And that's not always true. You can be a good coach but have bad players. That happens.
Well, and it's the Van Chancellor quote whenever they asked him how his Ole Miss teams were so successful, and he said, "I load the bus with the best players." He wasn't a fool about it.
Now, in college, you're responsible for getting those.
That's right.
That's part of your job too, is try to go get those players.
You and some friends with deep pockets these days.
Yeah, it's true with the NIL.
Yeah. Jay, so do you pay attention to the NBA playoffs at all?
I have watched a little bit of it this week.
Yeah. You
just kind of turning back and forth between the games, but
I've got a new favorite team.
Do you?
Yes.
Minnesota?
No.
Who is it?
The Knicks.
Oh, really?
I like how hard they play.
Yeah.
I do. I really like Brunson and the other Villanova player, the Italian name I can't pronounce.
Yeah. DiVincenzo?
Yes, and they play hard. Even the guy from the Western recruit, never played for Western.
Mitchell Robinson.
He does a good. They just play hard.
Yeah.
And I like just a different level of anymore. Playing hard is almost a skill anymore.
Well, it's a fascinating mixture with a coach that everybody thought
defensive oriented for sure.
They thought his time was past in the NBA because the NBA wasn't like that anymore. And he gets to the Knicks and he's like, well, if you got some hardworking dudes, and it can still be like that.
Yep. And he gets criticized for playing his players too long. And I'm thinking, what player, every player I ever coached didn't want to come out. Jay, did you ever want to come out?
No, I did not.
Okay, all right.
Even when I fouled out,
That's
I didn't
right.
want to come
That's
out.
That's right.
Well, I tell you what, I have found a player that I like as well, and I liked him last year, but he's even elevated this year, Anthony Edwards for Minnesota.
Yep.
Talking about playing hard and playing with just this meanness that we don't see a lot of times. We're starting to see the washout of the league of the passive-aggressive stars, I think. We're starting to get a return to some guys who are from the mean streets maybe, and they may not be from the mean streets, but they got something in them where they're going to try to embarrass you. You think about the dunk at the end of that game last night. He dunked on his favorite player, Kevin Durant. He saw him and he went after him.
I saw that. I did see that part.
Yeah, the game was
like I
pretty
said,
much
I was flipping back and forth, but
I'm happy to see some of this return of guys with some attitude, and even Jokic, who's he's not passive aggressive. He's just like a tree sloth in a lot of ways. But, I mean, he's kind of got that streak in him, even though basketball's not the most important thing, I think. So I'd like to see some of these guys that got a little bit of that attitude, and they want to prove themselves in playoffs is where, we see that. We used to see that, I think, a lot of times, back in the 80s and 90s and that kind of stuff. So it's good to see. Well, Jake, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
And this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.